there were a bunch of segments that we won't talk about individually, but the crux is that Vince Russo has assigned Dusty Rhodes the task of going to North Carolina and getting Jeff Hardy's name on the bottom line, so he's signed with TNA. And Dusty's talking all month about how he has this folder with him. He has this folder and there's something in the folder, and he doesn't tell us what's in the folder. He's like, Rockstars, get this folder, daddy. And he doesn't tell us what's in there, but he's like, this is what's going to get Jeff Hardy to sign.
I kind of like this story, though, a little bit.
That, like, Dusty is the kind of the old generation babyface going out to get the new generation babyface.
Yeah. And it would also, like, Jeff, and maybe because he is anyway, but, like, feels like the biggest deal at the same time. So, I don't know. I'm into it.
So this builds to NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 104, July 21st, in which Jeff Hardy returns for the first time since his debut against AJ Styles. He is here to sign the contract. Dusty comes out. He introduces Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy comes out. He soaks in the reaction. He goes to all four corners. He makes a meal of it. He milks it before he does eventually sign the contract. So he's officially on the TNA roster.
Jeff Hardy's a fucking insane person.
Why?
This is not a real human being.
He does exist. He's one of those guys that just feels like he exists on a higher plane of existence.
Yeah, you know what? He's like one of these guys, and like you see it a lot with like actual eccentric artists, right? Where you're like, you operate in a different world where normal rules don't apply. Because you get to live a life that no one else gets to live.
And some would say opportunities that no one else would get.
Well, with Jeff, you know.
I do know.
He's like, I mean, I understand. You know what I mean? Like, it's Jeff fucking Hardy. Like, what are you gonna say? But it's just like, I don't know. There's some people where you watch and you're like, you live your day to day in a completely separate reality from anyone else. And there's no way that I could even comprehend it.
He is modest to the top, Liam.
He's modest at the top as well.
So Dusty pulls out the folder. It has Jeff Hardy's name on it. And he reveals that in this folder, the thing that really sealed the deal, the thing that got Jeff Hardy to sign on the bottom line to join TNA, is he has been promised an NWA world title shot. So he slaps it down on the table, says, Hardy signed this too. Before he can sign it, the alpha male Monty Brown's music hits. He interrupts. He says he's 1 pound away from the world title. Then Jarrett comes out. He's upset that Hardy didn't heed his warning, that he took out Hogan and took out Sting, and he still showed up. So he's going to send Hardy packing, slaps him, they brawl. Hardy runs wild, Monty pounces him, and then, because again, nobody can get over in this company, Jarrett cracks Hardy with a guitar.
I get doing this, but like not day one. You know what I mean?
This is just sign, and he's getting a title shot, and maybe have Monty come out because he wanted to beat Monty before he gets to Jarrett. But like it should be Hardy and Monty. Like Jarrett shouldn't even be in this segment.
Yeah, which would be better booking.
Jeff Hardy was predictably unpredictable during his return visit to TNA. After missing flights that drew a phone call from Jeff Jarrett during his first night with TNA, Jeff Hardy missed more flights during his return visit. A source reports that Hardy was scheduled for an early flight but waited to take the last available flight that arrived in Nashville in time for his appearance on the July 21st pay-per-view. He also caused a commotion the following morning when he overslept and had to be awakened by a wrestler the TNA officials sent to check on Hardy. By the way, they assigned a wrestler on Jeff Hardy watch. It's Frankie Kazarian. He is managing Jeff Hardy, making sure he gets up and goes places. Hardy was scheduled to accompany the crew to Orlando for the Impact taping, so his tardiness held the bus up that takes the talent to the airport by at least a half hour. Several wrestlers grew frustrated with Hardy's tardiness, tardy, that rhymes, and complained openly about it while they were waiting on the bus. Monty Brown was the most vocal of the bunch, as he was concerned that the breakfast he had ordered, the TNA crew typically orders breakfast from a Nashville Waffle House to eat on the bus that takes them to the airport, was going to be cold.
Well, you know, have you ever had cold eggs?
It's true, they're not pleasant.
No, it's awful. I don't blame Monty.
Brown may have also been upset because TNA officials informed him that they want him to put over Hardy at the next pay-per-view. So, the man wants me to lose to him and eat cold eggs? It's the most disrespectful thing imaginable.
He takes my push and my eggs.
Ruins my breakfast and my career. Wrestlers say Hardy is quiet and somewhat awkward backstage. He's weird, says one wrestler. He's like Teddy Hart, minus the pretentiousness. But he does have a rock star aura about him.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? That's that he has that aura. And that's the thing, is like, I'm sure he's a wild card and he's like insane to be around. But he never struck me as like a I think I'm better than everyone guy.
Yeah, I don't think he ever does it out of malice.
Yeah. It's his own thing that gets in the way of like other people, but I don't think he does it as like a fuck you. I don't think he would go on a panda media scrum, right? Hypothetically. And bury Monty Brown.
Wrestlers were pleased that Hardy was not given the special treatment that other big name wrestlers often receive. He stayed at the same hotel as the other wrestlers, which is a change from some of the bigger names the company has used in the past. The word backstage at Impact was that management is so concerned about keeping Hardy in line that they've assigned someone the task of making sure he gets up in the morning, isn't doing anything too out of the ordinary at night. Frankie Kazarian.
I think being on Jeff Hardy Watch would be cool.
Sounds like a fun time.
Incredibly, like, daunting. But I'm sure you're picking up some fun tidbits from Jeff.
So, main event of the Impact July 23rd is Jeff Jarrett making his Impact in-ring debut against Sharkboy.
Yeah, I think this is a fine match. I find it very fun that Jeff Jarrett came into the Impact Zone and was like, all right, Impact Zone brawl.
I was going to give out about this.
He's like, it's a new area to brawl in.
The dude has made us suffer through asylum brawls for over 2 years now. He's there in the Impact Zone in Orlando for the very first time, and he's like, this 4-minute match against Sharkboy, 2 minutes of it is going to be a crowd brawl because fuck y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, Jeff, never changed.
I respect it. I respect that he has the shtick and he sticks to it.
I will say, I enjoyed this match because it was like slightly more competitive, and I think it works more for, like, I was giving out that Abyss and Shelley were too competitive with Sharkboy. I think it works better with Jarrett as like the shit-eating heel. It's like, oh, Sharkboy gets some drop kicks and like a, not even a near fall, like a kind of a little bit of doubt pin on him before Jarrett puts him away. I think that's a fun little format for a guy like Jarrett.
I'm telling you, Sharkboy, he's the guy who like will always get some stuff in because he's the mascot.
Yeah.
I loved that Jarrett. I'm a big fan of heels who are like very clearly outclassing their opponents, but still choose to cheat to win. Like Jarrett could have won this without the low blow, but he took the easy way.
So you mentioned low blow, stroke for the win. Jarrett gets the microphone, calls out Hardy. Then, of course, he hits Sharkboy with the guitar. Before Hardy comes out, runs wild. Monty then comes out, drops Hardy with a pounce before stares down Jarrett once again. Building to NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 105, July 28th, in which the big match, number one contenders match, Jeff Hardy versus Monty Brown.
We just going straight to the match. We're going to talk about the promo.
Oh, there was a promo with the show. Hudson had Jarrett, asked about the Hardy and Monty match. Jarrett was like, I don't care who wins. And then Scott Hudson was like, fucking cut your bullshit. You always call Monty Brown a AA ball player. You want Monty to win because you think you can beat him.
Yeah, and that of course goes later on into the Monty promo where Monty's like, yeah, he wants me to win because he's scared of me, which makes no sense.
Yeah. Of course, Hudson, the clear voice of reason on this show now, just calling people on their shit.
Yeah. We also get the Ron Killings Monty pull apart.
Yeah, so there's a couple of Monty promos where he mentions Killings, and this one he's going to beat Hardy, become number one contender. He calls out Killings specifically, and then they brawl. And again, like, this was the one where Monty was just like batting at Hudson, and he was walking around him, sniffing him, and like hunting him on the interview set. And it's just such a unique charisma, and you can see it already here. It's like, this dude's a star. Like, as you said, there might not even be good promos, but he's so charismatic and different that it's like, star. He's just a star.
I like the idea that Ron Killings is like off to the side watching this before he has to do his like run in. And he's just like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
He's just staring agape at him, like being like, oh, he said my name.
Yeah.
Or it's like the classic AEW principle where anybody in a promo that's about to be talked about is literally standing offset immediately there to interrupt.
I mean, like, even outside of a kayfabe perspective. Yeah, it's like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Watching him sniff Hudson and like pat his arm. It's just like, huh.
Yeah, right? Like, that has to put you in a weird mindset before you're going in to be like super serious character, man.
So then Hardy versus Monty. Hardy wins, hits the twist of fate. Jarrett comes out, pulls Monty out of the way of the swanton. Monty misses the pounce. Hardy rolls him up. Hardy and Jarrett brawl. Hardy goes to hit Jarrett with the guitar, but then Monty pounces him. 3LK save. Dusty comes out, declares Hardy the next world champ. And then Russo's like super mad. He's so upset that Dusty has done this. He's whispering in his ear. And then Dusty is real mad about Russo looking sad and being mad about it. Basically, these two are mad at each other for reasons that aren't entirely clear.
Yeah, I think Russo is angry that Dusty went above him to give Hardy this shot, but also he did tell Dusty to like do what it takes.
Yeah, go get him.
So I don't know, man. Maybe like if you didn't want the title shot to be on the table, tell Dusty.
Yeah. Also, like, why does Russo care? It's Jeff Hardy. Why are you mad at the? And he like, it's not like he was handed number one contendership in the end. He earned it. So why is Russo so mad?
Well, he's not a top 5 ranked competitor, obviously.
He beat the undefeated Monty Brown
in a number one contenders match. But maybe Russo never signed off on it. Dusty going into business for himself.
Last show of the month, last Impact, Hardy beats Kid Romeo in a squash match on Impact, Swanton. Jarrett beats Lex Lovett in a squash match, Stroke.
I don't think any of the Jeff Hardy matches have actually been good.
No, the AJ match isn't good, but it's at least novel.
I'm also not including that as like part of this run necessarily. Like that was like a prelude.
Because like Monty's green, so it's always tough to tell like is Hardy good in a match against Monty.
But like even in like a company that has really fun squashes, his squash wasn't fun.
Yeah, like Kid Cash on this show has a squash against Mikey Batts where he fucking killed him with a moneymaker.
Every other squash on this show was way better. Even the Lex Lovett one.
So yeah, he's not looking the sharpest.
But he does get there, so...
That's true. So on the show we had a lot more Russo and Dusty drama. Dusty was the judge. He was meant to be watching the P.D. Williams Bobby Roode against Gerald Clark Mark Lornoff match. But then he was shouting at Russo at ringside. That's where Russo looked saddest. That's where he did the face and the hands. Then later in the show, backstage, franchise has Russo. Russo's like, Dusty, there's the misunderstanding. Actually, later in the show, Russo comes out to TNA and West, and he's like, stop talking about it. Stop talking about this Dusty stuff. There's nothing there. Before Dusty comes out and confronts him again.
I like it.
Yeah, so Russo announces that he'll have a number of announcements on the next pay-per-view. He'll talk about the X Division co-champions, which we'll talk about, the titles, which we'll talk about, Jeff Hardy, and he'll name a new championship committee. And then Dusty showed up again, shouted at him, and Russo's like, get out of my face.
He should talk about ending the weekly pay-per-views.
That's what he should talk about, yes, on the first show of August.
I'm sure he doesn't.
So there is your world title picture. Jarrett versus Hardy is your direction, along with Monty Brown versus Ron Killings.
Which sounds good on paper, but we shall see.